All right. We'll call this meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for a moment of silence? Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening. There's a log in the front. If you haven't done so, please sign in. If you have anything in particular you would like to bring to the board's attention, please also write that down. If at any time during the meeting you would like to mention something on an agenda item, please raise your hand to be recognized. After normal business, there's additional time for public comments where additional issues can be brought up. The meeting is being recorded. I will also announce that there is an executive session conducted prior to the meeting to discuss personnel matters. With that, Mr. Esco, please have a roll call.
Aaron Engel.
Here.
Michael Hess. Here. Reba Hoffman.
Here.
Cecilia Holt.
Here.
Jason Cup.
Here.
Jeremiah Light.
Here.
Dennis Udicious.
Here.
Daniel Wismer.
Here.
Laurel Ziegler.
Here.
Lucas Hoffman.
Here.
Jocelyn Diffenbaugh.
Thank you. We will move right into the approval of minutes. We have the minutes from the November 18th, 2024 school board meeting, as well as the December 2nd, 2024 board reorganization meeting. I believe we can take these together unless there's any objection. And I'd be looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion in the second. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or corrections? All right, hearing none, then Mr. S. Roll call, please.
Aaron Engel.
Yes.
Michael Hess. Yes. Reba Hoffman.
Yes.
Cecilia Holt.
Yes.
Jeremiah Light.
Yes.
Dennis Udicious.
Yes.
Daniel Wismer.
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler.
Yes.
Jason Cup.
Yes, motion carries. We can take 4 and 5 together. 4 is the treasurer's report. A through I are listed there for your review. We have 5 is the approval of bills for payments. And again, we have payments to approve in A through C for your review. I'd be looking for a motion to approve both the treasurer's reports and the bills for payment.
Engel. Second, Hoffman.
Any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, then roll call, please. Mr. Rose.
Michael Hess. Yes. Reba Hoffman.
Yes.
Cecilia Holt.
Yes.
Jeremiah Light.
Yes.
Dennis Udicious.
Yes.
Daniel Wismer.
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler.
Yes.
Aaron Engel.
Yes.
Jason Cup.
Yes, and motion carries. 6 is the communications and reports. We'll start Mr. Timchat with the superintendent's report.
Dr. Myers, pull up the superintendent's reports. So some good news for this evening, December 16th, 2024, in a variety of areas. It's a staff member highlight that comes along with one of the best couple of weeks of student highlights that we have. This week, we have our winter concerts. So over the course of several nights in the auditorium, to packed houses, just phenomenal concerts. The talent and preparation of our choral students and music and band students for those winter concerts. There, where you see in the picture are the directors. Each give us so much to be proud of, working with our students and our families to put on just an amazing show at each level. We have still remaining. We have tomorrow night the middle school concert. It was fun today after the 2-hour delay to be able to sit at the middle school and watch our students kind of walking down to the high school to rehearse a few at a time, being cautious mostly on not so slick sidewalks. They went down to rehearse and they'll be here to perform tomorrow evening. And then on the 19th, our final concert of the elementary grades 4 through 5. All concerts are at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium. I'd like to thank all of our directors. The music program here at Kutztown is so strong and is a credit to our students, our families, and each of the directors. Thank you. Another highlight here of the early winter athletic season is the high school girls wrestling team. Currently, we have 4 wrestlers on the team. That's Cassia, Emily, Natalie, and Jasmine. And according to Mr. Yapsuga, 4 additional wrestlers just joined in the last couple of days. So we will have 8. We have 8, I guess, as of today. They've had a few competitions in this inaugural season where we hosted 2 matches and they competed in the Raptor Invitational over at Executive Education in Allentown. So congratulations to those girls for participating and being this first group to compete as a girls wrestling program in Kutztown Area High School. The coaching staff, credit to the coaching staff for bringing the 2 groups together, both the boys and the girls, and making sure that they're all prepared. Looking forward to more success and building on the numbers. I mean, 8's pretty strong for a school our size in its first season. Keep around there will be great. But, since the numbers have doubled in the last 2 weeks, who knows? The sky's the limit, right? So congratulations to each of the girls and to their coaches for competing this inaugural season. And the final highlight, our school culture and community is vibrant with so many different activities that our students are highlighted, as evidenced by the concerts and athletics. Our primary purpose here is academics. That's where we start. Again, we thank you to Mrs. Devlin for presenting these numbers along with the principals at our curriculum committee meeting last Monday. We just wanted to share a few ranking highlights. When we look at standardized tests, the best way is to compare yourself to your peers because everyone's taking that same test in that standardized manner across not only the county, but across the state. And we have plenty to be proud of for keystone exams at the high school level, which are in algebra, literature, and biology. The Kutztown Area High School ranks either 1st or 2nd in Berks County in each of the keystones. We were used to ranking at the top of the county, but have continued to do so. And that's a credit to all of our teachers from kindergarten through 12th grade. Most of these tests are taken in 8th, 9th, 10th, or 11th grade, depending on the trigger courses, but all of that scores are attributed to the high school. At the middle school is in the top 5 in ELA in Berks County and the top 10 in math in Berks based off of the PSSA. Again, really strong scores at the middle school. And we're seeing incredible growth in some areas, specifically in ELA, the middle school. And in our elementary schools, 3rd grade was 1st in Berks County for math at Kutztown Elementary School. 4th grade 1st in Berks County in ELA and science at Kutztown Elementary School. And in 5th grade, we were 1st in Berks County in math and ELA at Greenwich Elementary School. So each of our schools performing very, very strong comparatively to their peers. There's always room to improve, and we have incredible tracking systems and dedicated staff working to constantly raise that bar. But the bar is high, and proud of those rankings. Thank you to all of our dedicated teachers and staff, and to families as well. We get credit for performance on the test days, the students. Congratulations to each of our buildings and all of our staff. And that's our good news for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Conchal. Next, we have the results of the 2023-2024 audit by Irvine.
As far as the PowerPoint, are you just gonna roll through it, or do I need a clicker?
No, I can roll.
All right, perfect. So my name is Nick Bieber. I'm the senior manager with Irvine Company, where we saw the audit for the 23-24 year for the district. I have a handout at each of your spots for the PowerPoint that I'll go through today, so you have the hard copy there. But I'm gonna start on page 3, which gives a little background of the audit. So the audit is conducted under 3 standards: generally accepted auditing standards, that's our audit over the financial statements. Also, government auditing standards, this is where we additionally look at internal controls of the district as well as general compliance, as well as our audit under uniform guidance, which is the testing of the federal programs, looking at controls and compliance there as well. And what our responsibility is as auditors are over the financial statement is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error, then render an opinion on whether those financial statements prepared by management with your oversight are fairly presented in all material respects with U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. We also opine on the district's compliance with internal controls over compliance and compliance with the direct and material compliance requirements related to major federal programs that were selected for testing. On page 4, you'll see the unmodified opinions that were issued under each of those standards. So an unmodified opinion is a clean audit opinion. That's the highest level that can be issued for the audit. On page 5, this is going to be a snapshot of something that this is in the auditor's audit report, the schedule of findings and question costs. This is a nice snapshot of the overall results of the audit. So all the no's and none's reported indicates that there was no internal control issues identified and no non-compliance issues identified either. So we tested under the uniform guidance, the major federal program that was tested was the education stabilization funds. This was the last year for those funds, had no issues identified there. And the one item that you do see marked yes is, does the district qualify as a low risk auditee? So this is one where you do want to see a yes there. And that's a 2-year look back, and it indicates that there's no material weaknesses that were identified that would raise you to a higher risk for the 23-24 audit. So moving into the numbers on page 6, looking at the general fund budget actual results for revenues. So very minimal variances here overall. The district was $295,000 over budget in revenues. Two main components there under local revenue sources. Interest revenues were over budget with the rising rates. And also state revenues were over with the basic education subsidy coming in over budget. That's something that has to do with the timing of the budgets that the district prepared in advance of when the state budgets are prepared, where you actually know the funding that would be coming in. The overall very minor variance, 0.8% means that you do great budgeting practices on the revenue side there. And then moving towards the next slide, general fund expenditures. In total, the orange highlight that you'll see was about $1.3 million over budget. That's a 3.6% variance. This really primarily comes down to one major component, which has been the rising charter school costs. Those came in about $1.2 million over budget and almost a $700,000 increase over the prior year within those special programs expenses. So when you look at the overall budget actual results for expenditures, with those being over budget, there is an additional disclosure in the financial statements as to how that overage was funded. So in this case, with excess revenues was a component of it. There was also some other financing sources. And then the remainder was with existing fund balance of the district. So we'll see that impact as we get to the later slides. Page 8 puts everything together. So in total, the district had budgeted for a use of fund balance of about $201,000 for the year. And the actual result was a use of $1.1 million. That brought down the ending fund balance in the general fund to about $4.8 million at the end of the year. On page 9, looking at the bottom section here, I'm going to focus on what that breakdown is of that $4.8 million in fund balance at the end of the year. So of that, there is committed fund balance for capital projects and technology infrastructure. That's about $1.1 million. With the use of the fund balance for the 23-24 year with exceeding the budgeted expenditures, the primary impact there was what had been committed for future capital purposes did decrease by $1.9 million. The other key component there with the fund balances, the $927,000 of assigned fund balance, that represents the budget that was passed for the 24-25 year with that budgeted deficit. That left unassigned fund balance at $2,678,000. This represents 7.1% of the budget expenditures for the 24-25 year. This is within the policies outlined in the district's fund balance policy as far as the minimum and maximums allowed. Page 10 gives some historic fund balance trend information. So look at the top orange bar. What that represents is all the general fund balance, plus what's been set aside in the capital reserve funds as well. So that represents at the end of the year, 14.5% of the budget expenditures for the 24-25 year. You'll see that has been a downward trend over the years, but part of this was a planned downward trend as far as the use of what had been committed for PSERS as far as the rising PSERS rates. That was something that was established several years ago as the future trends of PSERS, the rates that the employers pay in started to skyrocket, and the plan was to use that as they leveled off. The 23-24 year was the last year of use of that previously committed fund balance. So that's now at zero for the end of the year. So a couple key things I do want to point out with where you currently stand at that 14.5. If the 24-25 budget does come into fruition, that $927,000 use of funds, you would be at about 10% of the budget expenditures in your ending fund balance. Now, looking forward to what you already know in the 24-25 year, you didn't have that, the one-time influx of cash as far as the building sale for the admin, which was not part of what was budgeted. So you do have some relief there, but this is an indicator of something that the budget needs to get looked at very closely as you always do, but have that several year future plan for how that's going to be addressed, because those budget deficits obviously cannot be sustained. So look at the other funds of the districts, the capital projects fund, not a whole lot of activity during the 23-24 year. There was $347,000 of transfers in and just about $125,000 of expenditures. That ending fund balance was about $650,000 at the end of the year, which represents money that had been transferred from the general fund to capital reserves for future capital projects. Another item to note here is that subsequent to year end, the district did have the $15 million bond issuance for upcoming capital projects. On page 12, highlights for the food service fund. The bottom orange highlight there, the adjusted change in net position. What that represents is the change in net position adjusted for the pension and OPEB valuation adjustments that are reflected as an operating expense. Since those aren't a true cash inflow or outflow, it's just a result of the actuarial evaluations that were performed. We look at the change based on backing out those expenditures. So that resulted in, at the end of the year, a decrease of about $55,000 compared to a small increase of $9,000 in the prior year. Most of this stem from just rising costs with primarily the food and other supply costs for the district. So the total deficit at the end of the year, was part of what's presented in the financial statements, is a $66,000 deficit. But if you pull out the pension and other post-employment benefit liabilities, the district would be at a positive net position of $588,000, which is the true position of the district that you want to look at as far as where you currently stand. That negative, the deficit that's presented is a little misleading. The true position would be at about that $588,000, which represents 7 months of operating expenses. So the state baseline for where they look for the districts to be at is about 3 months of operating expenses. When you're in excess of that, Bethany has to put a note together indicating as far as what the district is doing to reduce the months of operating expenses to that 3% or 3 months. So that deficit that you did have for the 23-24 year isn't something that's concerning. It's just something that needs to continue to be monitored as well. So page 14 just summarizes some of the additional audit communication letters. The management letter, which is anything that didn't fall in under internal control or compliance finding, we occasionally have some recommendations there. So nothing as far as any issues that were identified that didn't rise to the level of a finding, but we did have a recommendation in relation to revisiting the district's capitalization policy for capital assets to update to align with the recently increased threshold for the federal threshold under uniform guidance, which is $10,000. Also has some information on upcoming accounting standards that will impact the district's financial statements in the coming years. And then the communication letter has nothing additional as far as any issues that were identified. The audit adjustments that we had for the year weren't significant, and they have been posted to the district's account, so the reports reflect that. And those copies of the adjustments are attached to that, the final letter, which will be provided once that gets finalized. No other reportable matters, and so at this time, that's the end of what I wanted to present. If there's any comments or questions, I'll gladly take them.
Anybody have any questions? All right. Thank you for your time this evening.
All right.
Report.
Thank you all.
Just like to comment, not related specifically to the audit itself, but when we look at those expenditures, we continue to see the funding for charter school and specifically cyber charter school in Pennsylvania, leading to kind of crippling expenses for districts in a world where, that choice has become the expectation, over the course of the last 10 years. We started at the point 10 years ago where public schools were kind of looking themselves in the mirror and saying, what can we do differently to meet the needs of students? And we, as a way of bringing most students back maybe from the charter experience and cyber charter experience, while we still do that, the feedback continuously, and we have our staff member here in the district who is our KBA support specialist, who also reaches out to those families who are specifically in cyber charters. And repeatedly, the answer is just the flexibility, the flexibility, the flexibility, the flexibility, and that's what, and it's understandable when that's the answer, but we will always believe that our product is better when we have results, in addition to just a few that we showed there. But yet flexibility for families is what the expectation is in that choice. And we can get to, when we look at our overage costs from last year, we're looking at about 240,000 in out of district placements, which are different types of situations. And then within that charter school, you get to $400,000 really quick. We projected about 5 kindergartners and it ended up being 9. So that's a few. You have a family of a few, 3 that move in who are already in a cyber charter and they're happy there. At anywhere from $35,000 to $90,000 a pop, it adds up just really, really quick. And the most direct path to some budget relief on that expenditure side for us as a district is really charter funding reform, specifically cyber charter. Appreciative of the legislature for making some gains in that this past year with a transition fund, of which we received approximately $100,000 this year in revenue. But transitioning to a point where both those schools of choice, public schools of choice in the charter can be funded properly while it doesn't take away from the revenues on that we have as a district. Again, I go back to one piece that struggles. This is a local control state where you all sit here as a board who are elected by your peers to run the district. And one of the most important things we do obviously annually is develop a budget, and you have zero control over a significant portion of our budget because of the way the funding system is. And again, appreciate families making the choice that's right for them. Funding system just simply has to change where both can exist and it doesn't harm one to benefit the other. Just my comments from it.
Thank you, Christian. Move into the committee reports. We'll start with extracurricular and facilities committee. Sterling.
Thank you. So we first talked about the fall sports review and how successful our fall sports programs were this year. And just want to say again, congratulations to the student athletes and the coaches for those teams. We also talked about brought by a student, the Science National Honor Society program, which is on the agenda for tonight for approval. We also talked about purchasing a new school van, which is also on the agenda for tonight.
It was in the annual budget.
And it was also in the budget.
Part of our need to refresh that fleet from time to time as we put on hundreds of thousands of miles just a few years.
I think the one we're replacing has over 200,000 miles on it currently. So we were given an update on the high school gym floor, which has had a little bit of issues this year concerning delamination of the finish and what the proposals are. We're waiting to get some more feedback and quotes to see what we're going to do with that, because we have time for that yet.
And the vendors are recommending a full sand down at some point, but we have some choice in when that occurs, and we're looking to get some additional.
Also giving an update on the auditorium stage floor materials. Again, that's another project that won't happen until summertime, so there's no hurry on that one yet. We were given a proposal for in the field house to add basically a loft area in there for student athletes to use. And then we also were given an update on the district HVAC. And that's about it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lynn. Policy Curriculum Committee, report, Mr. Wisdom.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Cook. We had a lot of time spent going over the really great performance data that Mr. Tim Chatton shared earlier. And then we did at the end kind of touch on two things. We're moving closer towards the recommendation of moving forward with eliminating the general level at the 9th grade level only, correct?
That's where our current recommendation would stand.
And then we had a draft AR for just putting some of the descriptions on paper for the negotiations team that we're going to be looking at more in the future.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Berks TCC, Mrs. Simon,
Oh, there was no
no
meeting.
meeting, all right. Then Berks Career and Technology Center, Mrs. Hoffman.
You also got to hear the riveting audit report for them. That was, really fascinating. We learned about their ADA compliance with their website. And I was wondering where we are on that because
Yeah.
I didn't really even.
So the ADA compliance, there's a few components to it. Where, and just for some examples, any video that is on our website needs to have a closed caption type feature. Ways you can do that is using, as long as it's a YouTube video, that's an option, so transitioning, you can't really have many district owned videos, without them being uploaded through, whether it's Vimeo or YouTube. There are examples where the website needs to be able to read any text of someone who might be visually impaired. So over the summer as an admin team, many of the changes. Now, we've moved over to Final Site as the host for our website. That's just last year, time's flying. So many of those ADA compliance came with that transition to Final Site. There's some others that by building or department, we had fixed what we were capable of doing with our technological skills individually over the summer. And currently, for one portion of it, which is fixing forms, any form that is completed on our website needs to have a mechanism to let somebody know that they've completed it properly. We'll say that, for example, if it is not completed properly, it could pop up with like a red X that says you missed, a required field. So we currently have a staff member working through that in some extra hours to bring us up to full ADA compliance, which Mr. Hoffman has done a great job of leading that in a way that we didn't have to shut down for X amount of time. And that's all we worked on, which is working through incrementally. So I think we're in a pretty good place. And over the next month or so, we can be in a better place with the staff member we have dedicated some extra hours.
Just one thing that I'm like, I wonder what we're doing on that. And they also talked about like other schools do tours with their boards and have their board meeting at the school. I thought that would be a cool thing for us to do as a board.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. The only challenge of it being like for us to be a board meeting, our public would really only be able to attend via Zoom unless they wanted to drive all the way to BCTC. But recently, one of my colleagues, they did a board tour on the same night as the open house, and they said that was a fantastic experience because you see students and families who are doing the tour, and then we also, if that's something that the board is interested in, we can set up a tour of BCTC and their phenomenal programs.
I think it would be cool. And the other thing that I thought was fun, cool, they had an article on the PSBA about BCTC, all the AI that they implement and stuff. So anyway, yeah, a lot of good stuff.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hoffman. And then I guess we can look into judging.
Yeah.
Others wanted to.
Yeah, we'll put out a few together. I'll get some dates from BCTC and then see.
Great. Berks County Intermediate Unit, Mr. Wismer.
I was unable to attend.
Okay. And then the PA School Boards Association, Ms. Hall.
I have a couple of things. One is, about the America 250 PA Keystone Classroom Initiative, and America 250 is, a nonpartisan group that has been formed by the legislators, I believe, countrywide to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the United States. And their goal is really to, start building excitement about that, which of course is happening in 2026. And the PA classroom initiative is, it's geared for kindergarten through 4th grade, and they have like a historical reenactor, and they are teaching about Pennsylvania history, in particular, like contributions to the United States. So it's the reenactor, and then there's coloring books and things like that. So I was thinking I would forward it to the principals at our elementary schools and see if it's something appropriate for an assembly or something like that. If that's pretty neat. And the other thing is something that PSBA is offering called Building Stronger School Communities Through Civil Discourse, and that's in-person event on February 1st for board members, like a 9 to 2 o'clock thing with opportunities to try it out in various different school issue settings and community issue settings that would be pertinent. So I'm thinking about attending. It would be free for us with the level of membership that we have.
Okay, I'm sorry, did you say where that was?
Oh, it's in Mechanicsburg at the SBA headquarters.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. And then the student representative report, Mr. Hall, Ms. Tiffenbaugh.
Not much. We had the concerts, those went well. Other than that, we pretty much just got back from break and we're about to go on another one, so. There's
Living the
really,
life.
yeah. It's
Crunch
hard, like,
inside.
yeah, there's really not much to say as of now. But yeah, the concerts went well, so.
Very good. Good to hear it. Anything to add? Okay,
We don't-
excellent. Well, thank you for joining us this evening. Public comment on agenda items. Mr. Hubbard, did you check the box?
I did not.
Okay, well, I don't think to say there's no check mark. Dr. Myers, anyone online?
There is none.
All right, okay. We can move right into new business. Start with personnel. Is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of School Directors approve the following personnel items. 1 through 5 are listed there. I'd be looking for a motion to approve the personnel. I move.
Dishes. Second, light.
We have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that agenda item? All right, hearing none, roll call please, Mr.
Reba Hoffman,
Yes.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jeremiah Light,
Yes.
Dennis Udicious.
Yes.
Daniel Wismer.
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Aaron Engel,
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes, Jason Cup.
Yes, motion carries. B is policy maintenance. I have been asked to pull out 3, so we're going to take 1, 2, 4, and 5, unless there's any objections to that. All right, is the recommendation of the policy committee that the Board of School Directors approve the following policies for second reading and adoption. And again, 1, 2, 4, and 5. I'd be looking for a motion to approve those 4.
Wismer moves.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on those? All right, then hearing none, Mr. Hess, a roll call please.
Sorry, just 1 second.
Take your time.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jeremiah Light,
Yes.
Dennis Udicious,
Yes.
Daniel Wismer,
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Aaron Engel,
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman,
Yes.
Jason Cup.
Yes, motion carries. And then also for policy maintenance, I'd be looking for a motion to approve item 3, policy 218, student discipline. Do we have a motion? And a second?
Second, Hoffman.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Be looking for any
For
comment.
218, I was hoping that we would be able to move that back down to the policy and curriculum for discussion. There's some broad statements in there that I think can be addressed, and there's also some items that kind of drag the school into kind of working more as a court where they have to involve themselves in out of school conduct that I think we could probably clean up a little bit.
Yes, so are you making a motion to send it back to?
I'd like to,
committee?
yes.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion, any second, to send it back to committee. Mr. Wisber, do you have anything else you'd like to add, or do we have any objection to that?
Just a question, I mean, you're saying there's some things that are broad, is there anything specific?
There are, yeah, there was some language that creates a third category. Item 7, the conduct interferes with or threatens to interfere with the rights of students or school staff. The threatens to interfere is a separate category above the rights. You're either interfering or not interfering. Threat to interfering opens up a lot of and then the on and off campus activities, I think that's also something we can clean up. Item 3 is something that I think is more common, where student expression or conduct material and substantially disrupts the operations of the school, or the administration reasonably anticipates that the expression or conduct is likely to materially and substantially disrupt the operations of the school. That one has some grounds for to be upheld as far as outside of school. But a lot of some of these other things we don't have to look at as far as limiting them to in school instead of. So we're going to define a little bit better, or I'm hoping to define it a little bit better, have that discussion. So we're not policing off campus behavior.
Is there any time constraints for these revisions, Dr. Myers?
No, it's not an issue. I don't believe to take it back to committee.
There's been significant case law over the last 10-15 years about on and off campus activity, and the definitions are constantly evolving because the mechanisms in which an off campus can occur change. So.
And you had referenced a concern about the school acting as a court. What is that in reference to?
So if all of these items are handled as the school policing, that's what the Court of Common Pleas is for. So I'm concerned that the school would end up getting into the business of having to and remedy too broad of issues that are happening outside of the school.
Do we have any cases that apply?
I do have a lot that I looked at too, that we could, absolutely.
I mean,
Policy.
the scope of what schools are required and or it has grown and grown and grown. There's no question about that as far as, the level, the extent to which schools both have the authority and have the expectation to be involved in off-campus activities specifically, or the way that the trail of how an activity gets to campus, we'll say. So that has been broadening over time. There's no doubt about that. The specific situations, I always just be reminded, try to remind, because the language we use related to school discipline is often the same as you use in a court setting. All of our policies govern our ability to suspend students, essentially, right? Like that is ultimately, and expel to the furthest extent. Like we don't have any criminal authority above that with the small exception where there's still an ability to issue a small fine for tobacco. That's like the only instance where we can go beyond the school suspension, but there definitely has been a broadening of the school's responsibilities there. That is, I think, always worth discussion, so if there's, concerns from the committee, I think it's certainly worth discussion, so we all have a common understanding of what that might mean in scenarios. And I don't think going back to committee is gonna stop us from doing our job.
If there's further discussion needed for policy, I'm for sending it back. It doesn't sound like it's a rush to approve it. I don't think it's gonna change anything. How the district handles it. I'm okay with
Not in the
that.
meantime.
Right, yeah, right. Any other comments or objections or questions?
So is that an official motion
Yeah.
to send it back?
So, right, we'd have a roll call on sending it back to committee.
He made the motion, I made the second.
Thank you.
Mr. Hess, you can just take a roll call then, please. I'd appreciate it when you're
Yeah.
ready.
Thank you. Start at the top of the order, if that's okay. All right. So roll call, Aaron Ankle,
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman,
Yes.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jeremiah Light,
Yes.
Dennis Udishis.
Yes.
Daniel Wismer,
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Jason Cup,
Yes, so the motion to send policy 218 student discipline back to, policy and curriculum committee has carried. Moving on to item C, Eshelman bus van driver. It is the recommendation of the administration that the board of school directors approve Douglas Potts as Eshelman Bus Company bus van drivers for Kutztown Area School District for the 2024-2025 school year. Do we have a motion?
Second, Hoffman.
We have a motion in a second. Any questions or comments on the added driver? All right, hearing none, then Mr. Hess, roll call, please.
Jeremiah Light,
Yes.
Dennis Udishis.
Yes.
Daniel Wismer,
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Aaron Ankle.
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman,
Yes.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jason Cup.
Yes, motion carries. D is donations. It is the recommendation of the administration of the Board of School Directors accept with gratitude the following donations. One, we have a donation from Mr. Peter Karch in the amount of $50 for the purchase of library books. And we also have a donation from Christmas City Studio to Kutztown Elementary in the amount of $242.74 for the KES Student Activities account. We have a motion to accept those donations.
So moves. Oh.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any questions, comments on these donations? Okay, well, hearing none, I mean, thank you to Mr. Karch, and he has donated funds for library book purchases many times, and we appreciate the additional donation. And thank you to Christmas City Studio as well. Mr. Hess, roll call please to accept the donations.
Dennis Udishis,
Yes.
Daniel Wismer,
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Aaron Ankle.
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman,
Yes.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jeremiah Light,
Yes.
Jason Cup.
Yes, motion carries. E is the second step program. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of School Directors approve the second step pilot program at Kutztown Area High School at a cost of $1,389 per attached. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Hess.
Have a second?
Second. Like.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Just, I don't know if I understand what the second step program
The
is.
second step, we use second step, K through 8.5 years for, some of our, whether it's social emotional learning curriculum that is implemented in a variety of different ways in the advisory at the middle school, having students work together. At the high school, some of the target here is to use it within special education classrooms, where that's a need for curriculum for students with those skill deficits identified in an IEP. There may be, some additional use once we have access to that, but that's the intent right now, as you notice,
So it's an official curriculum.
Oh, yeah, yep. Yeah, now we traditionally would only you would only use certain pieces as determined, like at the elementary, it's primarily the school counselors determine what pieces will be needed, that we don't have time for all the curriculum, but they target it. The advisory team or the leadership team at the middle school decides what the advisory would then use for them, and then this would be primarily based off of IPs.
Any other questions? Mr. Ross, roll call, please.
Sorry, I went on their website and I'm always leery of all these websites that emphasize everything that has to do with race. And, we're committed to addressing racial injustice. Like, I don't know, like we keep seeing that, and I don't know, I'm just really struggling with a little bit of the language again in their stuff. I mean, they do say that, they have these, their resources are for anti, making sure that, all right, some of the stuff, sorry, I'm like looking here, like, it's to understand Latinos better, to understand Asians better, to understand, Jewish identities better. So it's encompassing everything, but I get really sick of hearing this, like, let's talk to our kids about being racist. And it's like, do we need to be telling our special ed kids that, like?
Yeah, again, I mean, the portions of the curriculum are specific to needs identified in an IEP and, in this usage. And, that'll be, it's gonna be social skills primarily. This is Devlin shaking her head like she would like to say something.
Their core program focuses on communication and relationships. They have some additional modules that may focus on things like privilege and power and things that we have not purchased. We are just looking at that core curricular piece that just is about the basic social skills, the addressing, being able to define emotions and speak to emotions and address what happens when you feel heightened about, it's the very core basic piece of that, not the extended programming that they do have available.
Okay, so we're gonna be able to
We have,
pick and choose
yes,
what we
absolutely,
are
yeah.
allowing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
And specific to IEP goals at the secondary level, the things that you might have concerns with are not likely the things that would appear in a student's social skills, IEP goals that may be there around communicating in social situations or communicating in other situations. I can't think of another one.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mrs. Devlin, are you able to show us, in the future, examples of what?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
So it looks like from their website, the titles of their lessons are things like mistakes are okay, practice makes better. Sometimes we feel happy, sometimes we feel sad, sometimes we feel mad, we can feel calm. What are you feeling? We can be kind. Why kindness? Showing kindness. So I guess that those are the things that I'm seeing when I'm, apologizing can help, taking turns and sharing. So I imagine these are the types of lessons that we're leveraging.
But I can pull some samples at a couple different levels just to show a range of things.
As I shared, we have a several year history with, from anywhere from K through 8 using the core curriculum, and have had a good positive experience and reported positive experience from students and, families with this.
Have there been any complaints?
No.
Any other comments? Mr. Russell, roll call, please.
Daniel Wismer,
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Aaron Engel,
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman,
Yes.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jeremiah Light,
Yes.
Dennis Judicious,
Yes.
Jason Cook.
Yes, motion carries. F is the TransFinder routing software. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of School Directors approve the purchase of the TransFinder routing software. We have a motion.
So moved. Second.
Second. Engel.
Motion and second. Are there any questions or comments on this agenda item?
TransFinder software would replace bus tracks, which we have used for quite some time. It'll require about a 6-month transition, which will prepare us for this summer, to prepare for bus routes. TransFinder gives us many technological advances, including logistic software for routing. Our current routes are based off of historical routes over several sort of generations of transportation. We believe that it will find some efficiencies for us. It will also allow us to run hypothetical routes when we come up to efficiency conversations, whether it is, small groups of students who might traditionally have gone, to Greenwich, going to KES or vice versa, or even as we've had conversations in the fall and Logan in the future, about what sequential schools looks like. It'll allow us to run scenarios for anything of that nature, rather than right now it's not exactly by hand, but by hand is a better way to describe it than to say it's using a software.
I think it would be much more efficient.
The annual cost is about $2,000 more than what we are currently paying for bus tracks, again, with, significant upgrades in the technology.
What was the total purchase price?
It's annually about a little over $5,000 a year.
Now or for?
Now. And have, many of our neighboring districts have either used it for years or transitioned in recent years and had other good schools.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Russ, roll call, please.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Aaron Engel,
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman,
Yes.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jeremiah Light,
Yes.
Dennis Judicious,
Yes.
Daniel Wismer,
Yes.
Jason Cook.
Yes, motion carries. G is a school van purchase. It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of School Directors approve the purchase of the 2025 Transit 350 passenger rear wheel drive low roof van from New Holland Ford as per the attached quote. We have a motion.
So moved. Light.
Second, Hoffman.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments?
I'd like to thank Mr. Lovenstein, Mrs. Siteman, and Mrs. Warning for their work in securing a van. The quote came in a little more than $20,000 under what we had budgeted, and it's as we said, with the mileage that we put on, it's the potential to refresh the vans everything. So we're excited. Delivery won't occur for several months, and that's just what the purchasing cycle is at this point. Supply for vans in the station.
And then are we selling one as well?
Yeah,
We have a
we
plan?
will sell it, but it'll likely be a municipal bid sell, with the amount of wear and tear on it. It's probably best to sell it. Municipal.
Any other questions? Mr. Russ, roll call, please.
Aaron Engel,
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman,
Yes.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jeremiah Light,
Yes.
Dennis Judicious,
Yes.
Daniel Wismer,
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Jason Cook.
Yes, motion carries. H is the legal services agreement. It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of School Directors approve the agreement for legal services for the 2025-26 school year as per the attached. I'd be looking for a motion. We have a motion in a second. Any questions or comments, Mr. Content, do you want to explain what the agreement's for?
Sweet Stevens is a law firm we use mostly for special education. legal support, and this is an annual update of rates. Some years the rates increase, some years they don't. There is an increase this year. It's an approval of the new rate.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on that? Mr. Hess, roll call, please.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman,
Yes.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jeremiah Lay,
Yes.
Dennis Udishis.
Yeah.
Daniel Wismer,
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Aaron Engel,
Yes.
Jason Cox.
Yes. Motion carries. I is the conference request. It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of School Directors approve the request for employee 931 to attend the comprehensive William Gillingham Plus virtual training on December 4th through 6th, 2024, and December 12th through 13th, virtually at a cost of $22,259. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Hess.
Second Kaufman.
All right, thank you. Motion in a second.
Gordon Gillingham is a training for curriculum instruction methodology for students with specific learning disabilities. We have, at this point, at the elementary level, following this certification, all but one of our teachers will be certified, which allows us typically, the Gordon Gillingham instruction is occurring in very, very small groups, so you get scheduling challenges. This has been a several year implementation of having our teachers trained so that they can deliver support to the students needed.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Does look like this training already occurred.
It is, because the timing of our meetings are retro.
Okay. Mr. S, roll call, please.
Reba Hoffman,
Yes.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jeremiah Lay,
Yes.
Dennis Udishis.
Yes.
Daniel Wismer,
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Aaron Engel,
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Jason Cox.
Yes, motion carries. J is tax collector compensation. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of School Directors approve to continue to compensate our elected school district tax collectors $1.75 for each tax bill collected, remitted to the school district, and information entered into the Berks County Intermediate Unit E-Tax Tracks Program effective January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2029. Do we have a motion?
So,
Kaufman.
second, Hess.
Motion in a second. Any questions or comments here?
What does that amount to? $1.75 from tax, what does it cumulatively become? It doesn't sound like thanks for the same $1.75.
I'm sorry.
It's probably a pretty big number.
Well, it is the same rate. It'll take me a minute.
It's not critical.
Sorry.
It's not critical tonight.
Oh.
Just like, it can be something. The more you do, the more you. Sorry.
You can list them.
I'll leave it.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
Just trying to figure out who I should come.
More lucrative than water ice.
Mr. S, can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jeremiah Lay,
Yes.
Dennis Udishis.
Yes.
Daniel Wismer,
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Aaron Engel,
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman.
Yes.
Jason Cox.
Yes, motion carries. K is the IDEA agreement. Is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of School Directors approve the agreement with Berks County Intermediate Unit for the IDEA B611 grant for the 2024-2025 school year. We have a motion.
So moved, Lloyd.
Second condition.
Motion in a second. Do we have any questions or comments on this?
The way IDEA funds are set up from the federal government and the state government is that they are. You have to partner with your IU to receive those funds. This is an annual agreement, when all that information is finally available, again, coming down from the federal government and state government with the IUs.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else have anything? All right, Mr. S, roll call, please.
Jeremiah Lay,
Yes.
Dennis Udishis.
Yeah.
Daniel Wismer.
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Aaron Engel,
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman,
Yes.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jason Cook.
Yes, motion carries. L is the accelerated budget opt-out resolution. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of School Directors approve the accelerated budget opt-out resolution per the attached. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Holt.
Second, Engel.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments on the accelerated budget?
The
opt-out?
accelerated budget opt-out resolution is the official kickoff of budget season for 25-26. By approving the accelerated budget opt-out resolution, we are admitting that we don't qualify for any of the exceptions to Act One, and that we will stay within the bounds of Act One. This year, Act One for 25-26, let's say this year, we start talking about multiple years at this point. The Act One index is 4% for us here in Kutztown. Any tax increase beyond 4% would require going to a referendum of our local voters. So Act One puts limits on the amount of an tax increase that the school board can levy. This says that we will stay within it. If not, we would have to go to referendum.
Okay.
And again, we're not eligible for any of the exceptions anyway. So there is a procedural piece where we do not need to adopt a preliminary budget early in the budget season because we're agreeing to follow.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Out of curiosity, Mr. Mancuso, when would the deadline be for a referendum?
I actually like the word statute, you would have to get it on the vote,
Right.
so.
Yeah, just curious. I was just curious.
I've never had
Talking about deadlines.
that transpire.
No, it would have to hit like the primaries, like
Yeah.
voting.
Yes, okay, correct. Yeah. I can update the board with that.
Mr. S. roll call, please.
Dennis Udicious,
Yes.
Daniel Whisper,
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Aaron Engel,
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman,
Yes.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jeremiah Light,
Yes.
Jason Cook.
Yes. Motion carries. M is the field house upgrades. It is recommendation of the Facilities Committee that the Board of School Directors approve the internal upgrades to the KAHS field house to create storage and practice spaces at an approximate cost of $8,500 for supplies. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Light.
Second, Vicious.
Do we have a motion in a second? Does anybody have any questions or comments on the field house upgrades?
Yeah, I mean, this stemmed from discussion around the small project of adding a batting cage to the field house. Currently, baseball and softball teams would use a space within the weight room. When exploring, between the athletics department and facilities, when exploring the ability to do that, the idea came to extend the second floor, which would add both storage space and a dedicated space for that batting cage, which then also frees up the space in the weight room for the other groups to use instead of it being taken up when there was off-season, specifically cold weather batting practice. Just a way of maximizing our space. The work would be done internally from our maintenance crew. The costs represented are really just supplies. So, it's in a bang for your buck kind of way of maximizing our spaces. It's an ability to use our internal skills and knowledge to expand student spaces in the field house.
Just to add on to that, after I met with Richard and some of the coaches and over there. This will also not only benefit the baseball, softball, any of the sports like football could use it, soccer, field hockey if they need to use it. KYA and some of the other athletic programs could use it as well too. And then also there was talk about getting some of the VCTC kids involved in the building of it as well too. So it's going to be, could be an educational aspect as well too. And for the amount that it is, you can't even build a building for something like that. I mean, just a bare bones building wouldn't even come close to this. So,
Put up some drywall and you're gonna get to 7,000 really quick.
and this also takes a lot of, like I said, it's gonna move it out of the auxiliary gym where the weight room is, and it's a tight space to begin with, and there are some safety concerns with having two operations going on at the same time in there, so this alleviates some of that as well too.
Thank you for reminding about, involving some BCTC students. Dr. Flicker's back there. He's always an advocate for involving some of our internal BCTC students with those skills when we have projects on site.
Mr. Chat, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't there a more grandiose plan that we kind of trimmed down to this number? Like, didn't they have something bigger in mind?
I mean, there's always more, yeah. I don't remember any of those numbers, but there certainly was larger discussions on it and just working through the supplies and what we can do to maximize that space.
Yes, I did vote to bring this to the full board, kind of thinking about it and when sitting here and contemplating it. My two kind of concerns are, one, just the optics of spending $10,000-ish when we have a very tight budget. We're already over budget by nearly $1 million this year. But the second thing is, I don't know that I like the idea that it's an approximate cost of $8,500. I really would like it to be a not to exceed of some amount of money. I think maybe being approximate might be because we're using in-house labor, so it's kind of hard to gauge what the true cost is if we're doing our own labor, but
the projection was less than 8,000, and we just put a little buffer in there, but I think a not to exceed language would be fine. This.
Would we need a motion to change the language, or we can just kind of write in the language in the existing motion?
I mean, I would say a project this size, the board can just direct the administration. So
Okay.
that's the case too. I mean, this really, in many instances, this would just fall within a maintenance procedure, but we brought it to the committee because we felt like it was, we needed that attention, and the committee decided to send it to the full board. So I think through a directive, we could ensure it stays below.
I mean, I'm fine with if the board chooses as a majority with that directive, but if it exceeds, I mean, you'd have to go back to the board for approval. And I mean, I'm always just very hesitant that, if you approve that 8,500, you don't really want to exceed. The approval's for 8,500. I don't want to.
Not including labor costs because they're part of our, I mean, I feel good about the 8,500 as long, we were not including labor costs because labor is just our internal, part of our payroll.
I think I want that language in there because I want to make sure that we don't start adding in lights and I mean,
yeah,
I trust our administration that we're going to do the best that we can, but it'll be very easy to get over that. And if it's part of the maintenance budget, we won't have much oversight over it.
I believe this is coming out of the capital fund.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's not even in the budget.
No,
No, it's
it's not
just a
in the
capital
budget.
fund. Then if the full board doesn't agree to changing the language, I'd like to make a motion that we change the motion to not to exceed $8,500.
Can I ask one final question? I know, Mr. Timpani, you're saying that it's being done with internal labor. I guess I know much of our custodial and facility staff are hourly wage employees. So what I don't know is, are they all working a committed, full-time schedule, or is there, are these dollars that we are incurring at their hourly rate that we would?
The vast majority of it would be within their regular hours, where I think there is some, we have a few part-time, including students, that are part-time that, a project like this might require some additional hours there, but the lead on the project would be in full-time internal staff working within regular hours, who's typically, in the winter months takes on projects of this nature because throughout most of the year is doing primarily groundsman. So I think the additional hours would be very minimal to just the part-time folks that we have for things. That answer the question?
It does, but I think, to Mr. Hess's point, right, it could quickly become, adding additional hours for part-time staff that otherwise would not. So I think there was a larger point that I also brought up, especially in such a tight budget environment. I'd love for us to understand really the nature of facilities work that is required and, end of life and critical and others, yeah, I think
This is not end of
without
life,
question,
not
right?
required, right?
It's in a little bit
Yep.
more of that optional category.
100%.
I certainly see the value for our students, I want to support it, but I also just want to be, very careful that we're spending money wisely, and then Mr. Hess brings up some good points to put some balance to make sure that that's a clear view of the financial impact.
Mr. Hess, what would your motion be? Could you
Yeah, sure.
clarify for me?
Sure, yeah. The motion really would just be towards the end of the existing motion. I would get rid of where it says an approximate cost of, and I would just change that out to a not to exceed cost of $8,500 for supplies. So it would be the same idea. I understand we might have a little bit of labor and it would be hard to maybe keep and project all those kinds of things, but
Let's say for supply.
yeah, right. And I think if we keep it to supplies, I at least just want to have some kind of bounds on knowing that we won't go over that. And if we do, well, I guess if we do, it would have to come back to us because it's an official motion. Yeah. So
Do we
I need to
have
make
a
a
second on
motion?
Ms. Russ's motion?
Right.
Second, also.
So it now reads this recommendation of the Facilities Committee that the Board of School Directors approve the internal upgrades to the KAHS Fieldhouse, create storage and practice spaces at a cost not to exceed $8,500 for supplies. Mr. Hess, correct?
Correct. Yes, thank you.
That's the motion that we'd be voting on at the moment. Anybody else have any questions or comments on that?
So if the supplies would be a little more, come out to more than $8,500, that means they can't buy any of those supplies, which could put the project on hold until the next
For a
board
month,
meeting.
yeah, maybe in this instance as well.
Just so we're clear on that.
Just for clarity, so if, when we vote on this, you are voting to approve it with the new language, we're not voting to move the language.
No, you're voting to approve the amendment to the language. So you're gonna have to revote if
We're gonna have to revote on the amended language, and can that be done tonight, or does that have to?
because it's de minimis in my estimation, because the 8,500 is already there, it's a restricting language. I think it can be changed under the sunshine law. But you'll be voting twice, basically, one to approve the change and then one to approve the ultimate resolution.
Quite frankly, I don't have an expectation that it gets done as usual for the winter season anyway. So for it to have to come back 30 days later for supplies, I don't see an issue with. It's just my opinion. I don't expect it to be done for prior to spring baseball anyway.
No, they were gonna start as soon as possible. So it probably will be ready for spring baseball.
Right, not winter season.
Right.
Right. So they should be able to be outside for the most part. Automatic cages in the spring, come spring. Any other questions or comments on the amendment? Okay, hearing none, this is a roll call vote on making, on the amendment to the motion.
Yeah, on the language change. There was a Reba. Daniel Whisper,
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Aaron Engel,
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman,
Yes.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jeremiah Light,
Yes.
Dennis Judicious,
Yes.
Jason Cook.
Yes, motion carries. So now we will, I'd be looking for a motion.
So you already had two motions.
Oh, yeah, I overrode him. I know it was Mr. Light and who was the second? I think Mr. Light was the first on the original.
So we have the motion, so we just need to have a roll call now on the amended agenda item. Okay, so we will have a roll call vote on the amended on the amended motion, with the amendment that Mr. Hess introduced and passed. So it will limit the cost of supplies not to exceed $8,500. Can we have a roll call on that? Does anybody object at this point? Yes.
I'm sorry, Dennis, did you second that originally?
I don't read.
Yes.
Yes, you did. I thought so. Okay, yeah.
The video replay.
You're right, I can always go back. Yeah. All right, I'm good, thank you.
Roll call then, Mr. Hess as well.
So. Aaron A.
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman.
Yes.
Cecilia Cole,
Yes.
Jeremiah Light,
Yes.
Dennis Eustace.
Yes.
Daniel Wismer,
Yes.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Jason Cox.
Yes, motion carries. N is National Science Honor Society. It is the recommendation of the extracurricular committee that the Board of School Directors approve the creation of the National Science Honor Society at Kutztown Area High School, including the annual fees. Do we have a motion?
Angle.
Second, Hoffman.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments?
So is this part of a national organization?
Yes, there's a national organization, and the idea was born out of a few students discussing it with Ms. Blisko. And she has volunteered to be the advisor, the initial advisor.
What are the annual fees that are?
We did talk about
It was
it,
$325.
something like that, yeah, it was very minimal. I think we were looking at possibly a second advisor too, co-advisor.
Co-advisor, but to start, it was a non-stipend position,
Right.
volunteer.
Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, Mr. Hess, roll call please.
Laurel Ziegler,
Yes.
Aaron Engel.
Yes.
Michael Hess, yes. Reba Hoffman.
Yeah.
Cecilia Holt,
Yes.
Jeremiah Light,
Yes.
Dennis Eustace.
Yes.
Daniel Wismer,
Yes.
Jason Cox.
Yes, motion carries. O is introduction of new business by board members. Does any board member have any new business to introduce?
I just have one comment briefly. This is gonna kind of bounce off of what Mr. Tim Chatton had said. I think it was during your superintendent report. And also having to do a little bit with the audit that we just did. And it was around the reason that a lot of families are selecting cyber charters or charter schools for that flexibility. And I don't go to a lot of policy and curriculum meetings, but the one I happened to listen to was one where we were really looking at like how we are delivering our content and maybe making it more flexible. So as kids move through the high school, there is that, and I know it might primarily be high school, but there is that flexibility to their schedule. And if we think, are we getting any traction with those updates, and what do we think that has a possibility of trying to pull some of these students back in?
One, I mean, we're meeting with some staff tomorrow about some of those proposed changes on the flexibility, and I think it's exciting of what initially we're proposing. We're excited about what specifically seniors and maybe seniors and juniors can do at that time. I honestly do not anticipate that initially, like bringing back students. Students who are seniors and juniors are kind of set where they are and finishing out, and they have that type of flexibility in those environments. That we're looking to seek, and so I don't know that it would have a direct relation to that.
Okay.
But just excited about the opportunity to put some more decisions in the hands of students and families about what their children might want to do in those final years of high school.
Thank you.
I mean, does flexibility more mean that they like the fact that they don't have to travel from the home? They like.
For some, yeah, it means.
Like, that's something you can never solve.
Yes.
Right?
Many, it's that.
It frees up a single parent to be able to manage that situation better. I don't know how we can ever solve that.
Yeah, I mean, we talk to students who are in full cyber programs, and they'll work very hard for 2 days, and then not have anything to do for the next 3 days of what would be a traditional school schedule. And families feel like that is a benefit to them, and it's also, the flexibility also means sometimes means no accountability. It means, the flexibility means many, many different things. And some of them are positive educational outcomes, I think, for kids, and some I think.
I guess what I was getting is, it's not as much of a flexibility in what coursework they can
Right.
do, it's more flexibility of time.
It's time, yeah, 100%. We need flexibility.
School district never saw that.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, and
But I think we should try to offer as much flexibility. I just don't.
I think the bigger comparison point would be Kutztown's Virtual Academy as opposed to an external.
and the KVA comparison, our families who go with KVA appreciate the flexibility as well. And then they have the in-person supports that they can access here, whether it's for, with our KVA support specialists, your academics, or meeting with our school counselors, or participating in graduation and all those items. The biggest competitor in the cyber charter realm offers live instruction with teachers on a large scale, which is something that we cannot scale to do from a staffing standpoint. So many of those competition conversations die at that point. And then when we are having discussions about some of the other cyber charters that operate more like ours in an asynchronous manner, we fare fairly well. We are unique in that those costs that we have are still almost 50-50 brick and mortar charter and cyber charter, which is really which makes us different than a lot of districts. The number of brick and mortar charters that the students that we have is just higher percentage wise than most. And that is specifically because of, a charter or two that have sold themselves to, certain members of our community and other communities in the surrounding districts. It's just funding problem. I think that, I very much philosophically believe in choice. If you understand the trade-offs of those choice, I just don't think that choice should put us as a district and you as a board in the unbelievable financial situation that it does for a student when we have no accountability. That part to me is nonsensical, right? That $2 million annually of our budget, which is a significant portion of our budget, which 70% is raised. There are taxpayers and they're paying their fair share. It's not that, it's just that the board who has the authority to levy tax doesn't have any oversight. I think that one is crazy. And it's like anything else. It was built because nobody knew another way. Just, it slowly grew and then it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as it became big business, then the advocacy piece became harder because to advocate with large budgets versus to advocate as public schools was just hard. But I think we've made some headway, and I believe truly our legislators understand the issue. And I can speak specifically to those, whether it's Senator Schwank or Representative Barton, they understand. That doesn't mean they can get to a solution, but they 100% understand. That's a problem. I think we're in as good of hands as any in the state with the evidence that those people represent us.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything?
Little birdie told me it was Aaron's birthday.
You gonna lead us in song?
Yeah. We think we adjourn. 9 is public comment on non-agenda items. Dr. Myers, is there anyone online?
There's no.
Mr. Hubbard, I assume you're still in the.
I'm still here.
All right, 10 is informational items, APD are listed there. The upcoming public meetings and informative dates are also listed in 11. We do not, January 13th will be our next committee meetings at 6 and 7 p.m. here in the high school and by Zoom. And then January 20th, we'll have our next monthly school board meeting at 7:30 here in the high school and by Zoom. We'll be looking for a motion for adjournment. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
You
want me to take this off?
Like.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't do all that.
No, I felt it.